Hi, my name is DJ Giggler. Welcome to Bookstop Brixton. Today we're in Studio 353, a studio for creatives in Brixton, and we're here with the big Charisse C. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Oh my gosh, such an honor to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a big thing. So there's so much because you just announced on Twitter Abantu's a record label now. You just shut it down. Awesome, congratulations.
Thank you.
But first and foremost, how was it getting here? How
It was good. It was fine. Yeah. I'm coming from Reading today. I'm always in and out of Reading, between London and Reading. So yeah, like it's a journey
in
that.
Now?
Yes.
Oh, okay, vibes. Yeah. What's that like?
I mean, I grew up there, like for the most part. I moved to London when I was in uni. I lived in London for about 8 years and then been back in Reading for about 2 years now.
Okay.
So the in-between, it's been pretty much most of my life at this point. So I'm used to it.
I love that for you. What did you study in uni?
So I went to uni. I went to the University of the Arts London and I did journalism.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, here's a twist. Mm-hmm. Why journalism?
I think, my journey in music started as a music journalist. Mm-hmm. That's where everything really began for me. I had a blog when I was 15. It was called Authentic Duplicate, and I used to write about music and fashion and cultural things and social issues. And then I wanted to go to uni to do music journalism. I ended up doing a much broader course, but it was at arts college, so the arts part was always there and involved within it. And it was at uni that I began DJing. It was at uni that I was always in and out of London, coming to my favourite artist shows when I was 15, bumping trains, sneaking out of home, just wanting to be immersed in everything that was London. And it's close enough that I could do that. It's 25 minutes on the train into London. So yeah, for as soon as I was old enough to go out on my own, I was always here. Just it's a city that really just kind of made me and opened up my world in a lot of ways, for sure.
I love that so much. So you said you started DJing when you were at uni.
Yeah.
What was the vibes? What was the music?
So I was playing everything, very much open format. I've always had a really eclectic music taste. I was playing R&B, I was playing hip hop, I was playing Afrobeats, I was playing dancehall, I was playing house music. Amapiano kind of started to come into the fold. Probably maybe 2018, I would say, was when I started playing it. But it wasn't until maybe end of 2019 that I really honed into dance music, more specifically house music, with the mind of kind of the intersection between the two places or regions that have made me who I am, which is the UK and Southern Africa. And it was okay, what is my story? What is my USP as a DJ? What do I want to share with people? It's great to have a broad music taste, but I just kind of wanted to establish a bit more of a direction. And then that kind of really, I did a mix at the end of 2019 and I called it 2020. And that was an Amapiano mix. And it was in my mind when I was doing that mix and calling it 2020, it's okay, new year, this is where we're starting this direction moving forward. That was pretty much it.
You were shot from there.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask, in terms of your kind of move and going from the open format stuff, going from the R&B, the hip hop and stuff like that, coming into the dance music, what was that transformation like? That's the word I was trying to use. What was that transformation like? What were you kind of going through? Because I know you wanted to hone in, but what was happening around you? Because I know usually when change comes, there's usually big things happening at the same time. Can you take us through a bit
so I mean, when I started DJing, I was, like I said, I was at uni and I'd met a woman called Lauren Platt, and she'd been running a night in London called Work It at that time, and it was one of the main kind of significant nights in sort of London's nightlife culture, to say. And it was happening at Visions in Dalston, and then was at Omera and London Bridge. But it was at that time when that Dalston strip was still really rich in terms of nightlife and culture. And when I came into uni, it was kind of not necessarily the peak time, but still at the time when it was really rich. Through uni was when the venue started to close, you know what I mean? So I came in just at the time where that was what was happening and that was what was moving. And she had kind of also had been at the UAL, the same university, and wanted to work with young people to kind of share the skills, experience, exposure that she had gotten through her time. Because a lot of the things that she'd been doing was very self-made. A lot of female DJs had come through her, a lot of queer DJs had come through her, just kind of creating a space where like you can explore and establish yourself, and it's like a launch pad essentially. So she started this group, and we called it Connect 2. It was me and a few of my friends who are artists, DJs, rappers, and then she taught us how to curate our own events. So we started doing our own nights, and the first night we did was actually at Corsica Studios in Elephant and Castle, and then that was like the first DJ set that I ever did live, and then I played Work It, and then she introduced us to Boiler Room. We curated in a Boiler Room event at the office in London. That was our second event that we did. So it was like really just opened up our worlds, and her way of moving was very much like, if you can envision it, like there's a way to make it happen. Just do it and go about it, figure out how you're going to do it. And I've always been that way also, like I learn by doing. So I really appreciated working with her. And then, at that time, like I said, it was very much open format. And then at some point along the way, I would always I wanted to play, and I wanted opportunities to play. So I would just email venues and spaces. I used to party at Ace Hotel a lot. I loved Ace Hotel. It was really like a hub at that time for London culture across genres and communities. And so I'd reached out because I used to do these lobby lates in Ace Hotel, and it would be 7 p.m. until 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. depending on which day of the week it was, and it would be one DJ that would just play throughout the whole time. So I sent an email. That was one of the people that had responded to me, and it was Harry who was curating there at the time, and Harry was also working with House Gospel Choir. Okay. So he was the producer, DJ, kind of music, at the core of what they were doing musically, still is. And Harry had responded and was come through. I'd sent the 2020 mix that I did to him. I was I'd love to play. And then I started doing those, and I'd play 6-hour sets on a random Thursday or Friday. So much. Oh my gosh. And then he was I've been listening to your sets, and I was always playing South African house music. I was always playing, because I'm starting from 7 to 2, I could start very slow and ambient and R&B, and then start to build up, and by the end of it I'd maybe be at a higher BPM, and I had so much time to do that.
What would you be by the end of it?
By the end it would be very much house drum, that whole vibe. Vibes. And then he was we do these Sunday brunches for House Gospel Choir, and we have a DJ that plays the choir's music, and then in between the breaks, you just play a 20-minute set, then we do the second set. Would you love to do it? And I was yeah, sure, I'm down. And I didn't really grow up in terms of the more history of house music and its roots in America, and that wasn't what I was listening to growing up, in the UK especially, and in my household it wasn't necessarily a household in that way. So it was a bit of an education for me as well, in terms of the likes of Frankie Knuckles and all of those types of things. Okay, these songs that you hear, these samples that you hear, these are the original songs, and then they're doing their own renditions of it, and then I would play bring in the Afro house in between the sets and merge it. Then I was okay, this makes sense for me. I'd also been doing some lessons at the Roundhouse, and the guy that was teaching us with house music as well. Okay. And then I'm I like house music, but how do I do it in a way that speaks to me? And then that was bringing my heritage into it. And at that time, I guess I was fortunate that by the time it was getting to 2019, 2020, people were starting to pick up on pianos, and that was the time that I was having my peak as a DJ. So the timing of it, a lot of my career, to be honest, has been serendipity. It's been people that have kind of seen me and been do you want to do this? And I'm yeah, sure, I'll try. And then in it, I'm okay, cool. I just fine tune it along the way.
Yeah, no, timing, God's timing is divine. I think that's amazing. You mentioned that house music wasn't something that played in your house, so at home. Yeah. So what did you hear at home?
So my mum, big on R&B, South African gospel. My mum loves gospel. She's a very soulful, heartfelt music person. So we'd be listening to, with her, a lot of Lundi, Rebecca Malope, Joyous Celebrations, a lot of South African gospel music. And then she loved, Whitney Houston. Her and my dad both have a shared love for R&B. So we Joe, and just, that was, I think, the main thing, because that's what they both loved. And then my dad is the eclectic music listener in our household, but I would listen to music with him in the car. So whenever he had friends that were DJs, and he'd always play mixtapes, and he loved kwaito, he loved reggae, he loved house, he just everything and anything that was good music, he was into it. Yeah, so that was probably the predominant kind of music that I was listening to. And then obviously at family functions was where we'd hear a lot of kind of again, I think kwaito was probably the biggest one. A lot of the kind of Brenda Fassie, and like those type of music that you would be like wedding songs and celebration songs. And obviously growing up in the UK, that was the one space that I would hear music that kind of speaks to where I come from. It would be family gatherings and functions, because I was growing up in the UK. It's not what I was listening at school with my friends. And that's what I mean when I say it wasn't what I was going out to parties and listening to. I was listening to Afro beats. I was listening to grime. I was, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that so much. So you also mentioned then, so like before I go there, your dad then must be the South African one, I'm guessing.
No.
I got it wrong, guys.
No.
Tell me the
So my dad is Shona.
Nice.
My dad is Shona. My mom is her family originally from South Africa. So my mom is Zulu. Manyoba is my mother's maiden name, but they were both born in Zimbabwe, raised in Zimbabwe. So it's my mom's maternal family that are originally from South Africa and had moved to Zimbabwe. So that's where the gospel and everything comes in. That's what my grandma was listening to. But I think South African music has always, especially in the surrounding regions, had a huge impact culturally. So you can go to a Zimbabwean kind of hall party and celebration or wedding or anything, and you would hear a lot of South African music very naturally, because it's what kind of was dominating the charts in that time. It's what was moving in the radio, as well as like the music from each individual nation surrounding. So it's really never surprising. I think you find it a lot even now at Amapiano parties, that like a lot of the people that are there and a lot of people that really resonate and understand the culture and what's happening are Zimbabwean people, just because that kinship, and even just in terms of the history of the two nations, that relationship has always been there. Yeah,
no, because I mentioned that with like, I think it was Rose Bear. I mentioned, I was like, because I've interviewed quite a few people in the scene that I'm a fan of, that I see kind of doing their thing, and I'm like, there's a lot of Zimbabweans really pushing in the UK, like the Amapiano scene, not just the Amapiano scene, but like what you were saying, like the South African house or Southern African house. And like that, so it's interesting that you mentioned that. Okay, boom, now that we got past that, Boiler Room, you mentioned that, what was the lady's name you mentioned?
Lauren Platt.
Lauren Platt. Shout out to Lauren Platt. She introduced you to a Boiler Room where you did your event. And then since then, we've seen you on Boiler Room, and we've kind of seen your ascension. It's been beautiful, by the way. We've kind of seen you kind of growing and your sets growing on there. And what's your relationship with Boiler Room? Because I remember you were kind of presenting that.
I did. Yeah, so the event that we did as Connect 2 with Boiler Room, what year was that now? It may be 2018, 2019. But yeah, again, that was my introduction to the space, because at that time, Boiler Room used to do like weekly parties in their office on like a Thursday or a Friday, and it would be like RSVP, sign up. One of my exes was like a DJ as well, is a DJ, and also kind of was very familiar with the space, is also a graphic designer, incredible graphic designer, and he used to work with Boiler Room, with NTS, and so I was really immersed in that world through the people around me, and he taught me a lot and just kind of introduced me to a lot of different things. Like for me, like I said, I was this wide-eyed young girl that just like, I knew in my mind the only way that I can get to London and afford to live in London is if I go to uni in London. So I was like, I have to do that. And then I just knew everything that I wanted to explore and do, I would find in this city. So it was just like, excited, willing to explore. And then I would just always be at those events every time they would do them. I discovered a lot of DJs through that time, was opened up to a lot of different, like the underground scenes within London. And then it's like you meet people and it's like becomes a regular spot. It was quite a community thing. You know, at that time in London, I miss a lot of things that have now gone that really shaped someone like me. But it's like you get to know people because you see the same faces, and like it was quite an intimate space, and you could go outside onto the rooftop and it's like you're speaking to people. And then I just, in my mind, I was like at some point one day, like obviously I'd played that, but it wasn't an official Boiler Room. It was a thing we did at the Boiler Room studio, and I was like, Boiler Room's a big thing for like any DJ really. And then like I said, 2020 was when I was kind of about to have this peak moment, and then we went into lockdown. And that was right after I'd released that mix, and at the beginning of the end of the year before, then March, I think, was when it was announced we were in this global lockdown. Nobody knew how long it was going to last for. So within that time, I'd started Abantu, which at that time was a radio show with no signal. And then coming out of it, Al Heist, who's an incredible artist that I'd also met through that Boiler Room NTS space, was also friends with people that I knew, was curating her own Boiler Room. And she was like, oh, I'm doing my own Boiler Room and I'd love for you to play. And I was like, finally, this is the moment. And it was coming out the first time we came out of lockdown. So I'm like, I've been kind of locked up in this whole time. This might be the thing that kind of brings me back out. So that was the first one. And I did that with Cook's Sister, which was the beginning of The Ascension, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And then, so I've done 3 Boiler Rooms and a 4th one, which I hosted. And I think the one that I hosted was the next one. And that's Joe Koch, another really incredible mover and shaker, dot connector, somebody who has really been a core kind of figure at the intersection between the UK and South Africa musically for like quite a few years across different genres, who's really immersed himself in the sounds and the history of the music and just has a great mind for sound and really curating lineups that integrate the music into what's happening here. And he curates his own events. And he was like, we're doing the first like official Amapiano Boiler Room in London, bringing in the South African artists over. Do you want to host? And I was like, I've never hosted before. And I was a bit like, but I was like, I can't turn this down. Like, I'll figure it out. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. So I hosted that. That went really, really well. And then the next Boiler Room, 2021. So that was,
I saw you on TXC's ones, Vigoro.
I did all of them because it was a whole day at the Standard. So it was Devon Gogo, TXC, Mr. Jazzy, Kamompela. I hope I'm not missing anybody. I don't think Vigoro did that one.
Vigoro did
that
one.
Day. He did one later.
One. Okay, cool.
Yeah, not that one in particular. But so I hosted from the beginning to the end of that night. Second Boiler Room was Ibiza 2021 with Major League DJs. So
Ade was on that one, wasn't he?
Yeah, with Ade. Cool. And so they were like, we've been watching what you've been doing for a while, and we wanted to bring you back on like something that would be kind of like a moment for the sound and for you. And it was like, it being in Ibiza was a moment. So it was like, we'd love to do this with you again. And then the third one, sorry, I've got fluff on my jumper on my tongue. And then the third one was Marseille in France. But I'm really grateful because, like you said, like it's been one every year. And so it's really documented my evolution. Like even for me, when I watch each one, I can see my confidence growing, my technical ability getting better, my sound really developing. And it's like Boiler Room has really been an integral part from the very beginning, from when I was just like figuring out what this DJ thing is. But I don't want to waffle too much. But
you haven't waffled at all. Can we talk about the outfit in that first when you were about? Can we talk about that outfit was a moment.
Thank you.
You came in heavy.
That was an incredible designer who also from UAL. And I'd seen his work, Gregory, online, and it was his graduate collection piece. And I was like, are you willing to lend this to somebody? Like, I'm doing this Boiler Room. It was like, I'm like, I don't know. I just need to make this moment a moment. Because I think it's when it's like when you're chasing this dream, you never know which might be the thing that changes your life. And so I'm like, any one of these things could be the thing, the day, and I want to approach everything like this could be the day that changes my life. The person that has, do you know what I mean, could be in this room today. So I'm like, my set, the energy, what I'm wearing, like everything needs to give like I've arrived. And I think because all that energy had been bottled up for so long during the lockdown, I'm like, I've been quiet, I haven't been able to play, like I'm back now, like I have to give it the best. And that outfit for me just gave that. And I love green, it's my favorite color. And he was like, he was excited too, because I'm like, this is literally my graduate collection piece for uni, and like now someone's going to be wearing it on Boiler Room. And like so many people wore it after then, and he had it in like magazine features and was doing really, really amazing. And it was great because we both went to the same uni, so that was where that piece came from.
So you got to support him and he got to support you. That's really cool.
We literally, I tried it on in like the classroom at UAL. Like I met him at school and I was like, okay, cool, let's try it on. And we did the fitting literally in the classroom. Yeah.
Can I just say, this is the stuff of dreams, you know? This is so cool. Like, it's given childlike. Okay, cool. So we've spoken Boiler Room. I want to speak about The Ascension, because it's really cool seeing what you've done with that, with Cook Sister. Talk to us about that, the journey, how it began, where it is now, because I know at your EP, I mean, just talk to us. Let us know.
So that actually began, so like I said, 2020, Abantu was a radio show on No Signal. And at that time, it was like, I guess Amapiano was having this like moment. And like I was talking about earlier, having grown up in the UK, there wasn't like the diaspora of like Southern Africa as a region is quite small in comparison to other black diasporas, so like West African and Caribbean. And there's been a longer and stronger presence of those regions in like this country for a longer amount of time. And it wasn't until really like this genre had this boom that there was kind of this visibility of Southern Africa as a region. And it's like, okay, like this is what the music sounds like, this is the slang that people use, the food that we eat, where it's like now I'm starting to pick up that people that I've grown up around a lot, whose cultures I've been very much immersed in and know, down to like what they eat, what they say, what it means. It's like if we're saying sound system culture, if we're saying Afrobeats, I've watched the transition of that happening, you know what I mean? So it was like, okay, cool, like this is our time now, but there isn't the context for this. There's no way to situate it. And I was like, okay, people are loving this music, but I don't think are fully understanding why it is what it is. And if you don't understand something in that way, if you don't have context for it, it's hard. You kind of just make your own interpretation of it, which isn't a bad thing, but it means sometimes the thing can lose its depth, but also you're not able to fully respect it in the way that you can when you understand what is happening within it. And just also just in terms of like the artists who have been working for a very long time, like I just wanted to document it and create an archive. And Abantu means people in Zulu, in the Ndebele and Xhosa also. And so I wanted to document this thing and create this hub, which is for the people, by the people. And so we were doing guest mixes, interviews, and I was kind of speaking on there and doing my own mixes on it. And Deb Gogo, was she the first person? I think she was the first person that I interviewed. And that was end of 2019 or beginning of 2020. And then she and Cook Sister, very close friends, have been close friends for a very, very long time. I'd been playing Cook Sister's music on the radio show for a while. Again, it was just serendipity. So she was moving to the UK to come and study her master's, and then had sent a message to me, and she was like, I noticed you've been playing my music, because I'd always tag all the artists that I'd play. She was like, I noticed you've been playing my music. I'm moving to the UK. I don't really know anybody. Like, I'd love to meet and connect and maybe like form a friendship or something. And I'm like, yeah, like sure, of course. But also her friend Deborah Gogo also said to her, there's this babe that interviewed me. She seems really sweet. You should reach out to her. And so she did. And then she came. She was in quarantine for a while. When she came out of quarantine was around the time that I'd been asked to do the Boiler Room. And I'd had a dream that I wanted to perform with somebody. And I imagined it would be a vocalist, but not somebody that would like sing as in perform like a song per se, but that would behave as an instrument within the music. So you see how people have like drums and whatever, but I was like, this would be somebody's voice and somebody that can weave in and out of the music, and we kind of create live renditions of it in the moment. And then when we were speaking, and like I'd been listening to her music for a while and just like hearing her talk, and I interviewed her on the show over Zoom while she was in quarantine. And then I was like, it's you. Like, I feel like it's you. Like, you're the person that I want to do this with. So I asked, and she was like, funnily enough, like, I've always imagined performing in that way too. She, like, the way she performs, her favorite thing is that live moment when you perform, because it's different every single time. It's in the moment. The recorded element, I feel like for her is something that she does because that's what you need to do for people to be able to re-listen to the music. But she loves the reinvention, the consistent evolution of performing something live, and has very much been immersed in electronic music. Is South African, has grown up in South Africa and New York as well. So we both had that kind of diaspora, hybrid, intersectional culture thing going on. And then the more that we spoke, we went to Hackney and she needed plants for her house. Yeah. And then I was like, let's go to Pirate and just like practice and try this thing. So we're like, cool.
This is when they had mics, yeah?
Yeah, this is when they had mics at Pirate. And then the first song that I played was Mashita by Mansour Brown, who's an artist that I really, really love.
Yeah.
And then she like started singing on it, and I was just like, oh, fuck yes, like this is it. And then we both like knew in that moment that like, yeah, like this is something, like let's do it, like let's do this Boiler Room. And then the Boiler Room, like came, so we practiced for about a couple of weeks. And then the Boiler Room happened, and that was like, when we performed that, we were like, we can't just do this once and let it go. I think this is the way that people responded in the room. I think it's something that hadn't been done before. And we'd started with like mbito, which is a Zimbabwean instrument. And then we moved into like this kind of ambient sounds, into piano, house, ended at Gqom, and really went through so many of like the genres and references of the journey of like in the history of South African music, but then made it today and made it us. And then like got a couple more gigs after that point and just continued it.
Kept it running.
Yeah, we just kept going.
That's crazy, because the first time I actually properly heard you live, both of you live, was your first Abantu. Yeah, I remember coming in, and then obviously you were DJing at first, you were playing Gqom, and then she came on the mic, because I think like the ambience changed.
Yeah, was this the Workhouse one?
Yeah. Once we knew she was coming on, and she had like her hair in like a bubbles. Yeah. I'll never forget. Yeah, and the whole vibe in the room changed. I remember Moonchild was there, Shingai was there. I was there with Bro Ben. Everybody was there at that show. It was huge. But yeah, as soon as she hopped on the mic, I've never heard anything like it, because I think I turned to Bro Ben and I said, is that live? That's the first thing I asked him, because it sounded so clean. Her vocals.
And by that point, we'd like, because at some point we'd been playing other people's music and like basically almost had our own live bootlegs of every song. So there were certain moments that were like ascension moments in the song that it became a point where whenever I'd play a particular song, sometimes it would be freestyle, but then there were certain songs where she had like a riff or a melody that went with that song, and I knew it by cue and she knew it by cue. And it was like the natural progression here is to start making our own music because there were some moments as well where it's like, if only we had a song that sounded like this that would bridge the gap between here and there, because sometimes because we were starting at one point down here and ending up here, it'd be a bit of a jump. I mean, like, imagine if we had something that had these kind of chord elements or these type of like drum patterns, but these type of things, that would be the perfect thing. And it's like, well, now I'm searching for music that sounds like that. And sometimes it just wasn't there. So it was like, we need to make it. That would be what we need to do, and have original sounds of music in this set that speaks to what we do live. And so the song she was singing that day was the first song that we worked on together, Kulula. Yeah, that was a journey. It took us 2 years to finish that EP.
That's crazy.
And at that point, Kulula didn't come out until like a year after that.
Yeah, I think it's like genius levels, the fact that you understand, not genius levels, but I think anyone who really truly understands music understands that the voice is an instrument. It's not just some thing that you put on top or you just rap, and you really have to learn how to use your vocals, or at least if you produce, how to incorporate vocals within a tune. Yeah, I think that's amazing. The only other person that I've seen kind of do it well, I mean, a lot of people have done it well, but in the UK I like the way Ade's used voice in his new, have you listened to his new mixtape? He doesn't do an album. You need to listen to it. Yeah, the way he's incorporated voices is really good.
Because I've always known him to like use speech in his mixes.
He has. He has used speech. And he has used vocals, but not overpowering. Not like too much, you know. Right. So talk to us about this new EP then.
So my one.
Yes.
So I guess throughout the Ascension project, my first song that I ever released was 2021. That was Wrecking Bassline with P-Ware Lockdrum thing. Thank you.
That was major. I love
and that was piano song, straight production, very percussive, very kind of ahead in that kind of sound of production. And then moved into the making of the Ascension project and really immersed myself in that. But very much took on the role of an executive producer within that project, and just kind of building the story around it, and Cook Sister being the main voice. I only sing on one of the songs on that project, and because the voice, I guess within our performances, she is the voice and I am the DJ. So that was the dynamic within the making of the project. It was like translating that live experience into an EP. But then it's like always knowing that at some point it's like, there's me, Charisse C, and one thing about us is like we spoke a lot throughout the making. Like I was living with her at a point, like we were just inseparable from the moment that we met. And one of the things that we always spoke about was that this thing that we do together, we are together in it, but we're also very much will always be individuals with our own individual dreams. And the Ascension is a vehicle for us to be able to like use it as a catalyst for our own individual dreams. So it's like I understood very much what her dreams were, and she understood very much what mine are. And it's like there's a place where our dreams meet here, but there's a place where I have something that I can give to help you realize yours, and you can have something you give to help me realize mine. And I think I've always been interested in making music. I've always sung, but I think I was just always very shy from when I was young. I was always very shy about it, and the idea of being a performer in that way was something that I always shied away from. And so I've always somewhat moved in between being an artist myself, but also being behind the scenes of stuff. So whether it's like somebody who's interested in artist management or executive producing, or like, okay, let me just DJ and play the music. And then I haven't released anything of my own since Wrecking Bassline. So that's about 2 years now. 2 or 3 years? 3 years, yeah. It'll be 3 years this year. And then throughout that, I was learning a lot from her about the process of being in the studio, the process of making music, you know, taking something from an idea to inception, like how to channel yourself into something. All of these things that I'd always been doing, playing with. Like I used to write songs when I was really, really young. I had a book, but I was always afraid of it. But one thing about her, she's fearless in so many ways. Yeah. And is just not afraid to be the fullness of her expression. And that definitely rubbed off on me in a lot of ways, where it's like, what am I holding back from? Like, what am I hiding from? And I've always been somebody that just learns by doing and trying and failing and trying again. Yeah. So like, yeah, I'd say, when did this project start? And then at some point along the way last year, there was Abantu was like, obviously had moved from the radio show into events, and then it was like moving into the space of like it being a record label and being able to facilitate artists. And I'm like, the first artist has to be me. I haven't released music in a while. So I'm like, cool, let me dive into this process of making an EP. And I'd consistently making music throughout, a lot of things similar to what Wrecking Bassline was. And then at some point I was like with Clumsy, and we'd been working on like remixes of things, and again, mainly Amapiano. Then he'd kind of been moving into the space of three-step, and I've also been really loving three-step as well, for the same reasons that I love Amapiano. It's like a hybrid of influences and sounds, and it's just really forward-thinking, and I'd started incorporating it into my sets. And then I peeled up to the studio, I was like, Clumsy, cool, like I'm starting this label, I'm in EP mode, I'm in music mode, like I really have to do this now. It's been 3 years. I don't know what the project is going to be, but let me just dive into the creative process of it. Asked him to come to studio, then he was just playing. I was like, play me some stuff that you've been working on. Yeah. And then I'm listening to these beats that he'd been making, and I'm like, yo, like this is really special. You have a unique way and approach of it. And I'm like, let me just try something here. Like I feel like I have a melody in my head. And then the first studio session that we did, Morning Sun, which is the first single that I'm releasing, came out of that first session. Amazing. I think I wrote that in the studio session within about like 3 hours or so. That's incredible. And I was even a bit surprised myself. I was like, oh, that's incredible. That's kind of good. And we were both like, we just had this energy. We were just so excited. And we both knew in that moment, like, okay, we have something here. Can we talk about it? Because I read the blurb and it's like, are you in love, girl? Well, I am a lover girl, yes. I'm not in love right now, but I am a lover girl. Oh, yes. Okay. And that song, funny enough, like, I guess it is about someone, but not someone specifically, like not a present person. Got you. Yeah. But like, yeah, like the way that the music sounds, like it has these trumpets in between. And I've been thinking about, you know, like, so I'm basically for the last 4 years, I've been living between like the UK and South Africa. So usually from about between November and March, I'm in Johannesburg, and then the kind of spring, summer, I'm here. And my room in Joburg, like, is at the back of the house, facing like where the sun comes in. So every morning, like, the first thing is like
the ray of sun
floods into the room, and that's like the whole thing. It's been a theme of the sun a lot lately. I'm a Leo, like I'm a sun, like that. You know what I mean?
Leo.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think I struggle a lot within winter. Like I'm able to be a lot more present and awake when I'm in the summer season. And there's just this feeling that I get, like whenever I get to that point, November, just things start to get cold, and then I go to South Africa, and it's just like my energy picks up because I'm woken up by the sun. I'm not a morning person, but I am a morning person when I'm there. So I just kept thinking about this feeling that I get, like when the sun floods into my room, and it feels like love, it feels like hope, it feels like all of these things that I'm, I guess, consistently pursuing in life. And I was thinking about that when I wrote the song. It's like, I think the first lyric that came out is like, I close my eyes and I wake up in the morning to the sun, quite literally. And I was like, cool, like what else feels like that? It's like the feeling of falling in love with somebody. It's like sometimes it just kind of sneaks up on you, but it feels good. And it's like you realize that more and more every day with this person, you know? And then that's where the concept kind of that came from.
That's interesting, because it kind of gives me like, now that you've spoken about playing R&B and your R&B influence in the house, when I listened to it, I was like, it's giving me a little bit of that Khalees. Like, it's giving me that kind of soft kind of neo kind of R&B vibe.
I love really, R&B. Like, I love R&B so much. Like, like I think a lot of my influences in music and even just like vocally are very much from like R&B, but people who also like play with it. Like Kalala is somebody that I really, really love a lot as an artist, as just a mind, as a game changer. And so I was like, that was like that. So then Kwamzi and I just carried on experimenting with stuff, and I feel very free when I'm in studio with him. Like we have a really great chemistry as artists, and he just gets it. Like, and I think it's very nice when you meet people where it's like I don't have to say things in a lot of words. You just understand. Like I'm like, and then you'd be like, okay, no, I hear what you're hearing, and it's like he's already heard me before I've even had to open my mouth. And it's very few people, I feel like, in life that I've met that really truly understand me in that way. But also, I think I have a very strong demeanour and like presence, and I'm tall and I'm a fire sign, and so people usually generally receive me with that energy. But I'm very soft and I'm very vulnerable and like very warm and tender and loving. And I think to have a space where it's like, that is a very vulnerable space when you're discovering yourself as a recording artist, and like starting to use my voice in that way. And it's like Kwamzi's very calm in his demeanor and very patient and pays attention and listens. So the dynamic was just perfect. Like I could try and fail and I didn't feel, do you know what I mean? I didn't feel like I had to have things together.
Yeah.
And it was just like a really free space to try and explore.
And he's quite skilled as well.
He's very skilled, talented, incredibly talented.
He knows his stuff.
So good at what he does.
So I'm sure that made you feel even more
and I was able
supported.
to learn so much in that process too, right? Because it's like being able to be like, I imagine it sounds like this, and I don't necessarily know the technical term for what I'm trying to say, but the moment I express it, he's like, okay, I think I know what you mean. Then he'll do it, and he's like this, and I'm like, yes, exactly. Like, you know what I mean? Crazy. And it's his talent that allows that to happen, whilst I'm still learning a lot of some of the processes. But he's also a really great engineer as well as a producer, and so he is my engineer. So I was like, okay, I want to stick with you because I'm really enjoying this process. Let's just keep doing sessions. And we were basically in studio almost like 2 or 3 times a week, just like trying and making stuff. And then by the end, it was like a 3-step EP, which wasn't necessarily the original intention, but I didn't go into it with I'm very good at being very strategic and forward thinking and planning things, and that comes from the kind of journalism marketing experience. Like I've worked a lot behind the scenes, but I was like, I just want to really get back into a space of being an artist and being free and just seeing what comes out of me, like just channeling what I feel. And I needed that at that time that I was at in life also. Like I was like, a lot of things were like requiring me to really engage my brain and be present and pulling me in different directions. And I was like, I just need an outlet that isn't contrived, that isn't controlled, that doesn't have an agenda or a plan. I'm just doing something because it's what I feel like doing. And whatever comes out of that will probably be the purest version of me right now. Yeah. And that's what that EP was.
No, I love that so much. That sounds amazing. Just a piece of advice I wanted to ask, like what do you do when you feel like I know you just said you kind of express yourself, but when you can't just let go, what do you do when you feel pulled and prodded and you feel like there's nowhere for you to kind of hide? Like what advice would you give to artists or anybody in that kind of situation? How do you handle it? How do you go about managing?
It's funny enough, I was speaking to a fellow DJ friend yesterday who had asked me the same question because she's been like struggling and feeling overwhelmed. She was like, how do you kind of manage this? And I was like, the thing is, as a human being, we're constantly evolving. I think it's the same as an artist. You're constantly evolving and learning new things about yourself, especially this period that we're in. Like, I'm like 26, and so I'm like in this kind of becoming, fine-tuning life, experiencing a lot new. Like last year was a lot of new things, and with new things, it's like mistakes and lessons. And I'm like, it's an ever-evolving thing. Like, I don't think there's ever a point where you've mastered life in that way. And so it's like, for me, it's like taking it day by day and really just being present with myself and honest with myself about where I'm at right now. How do I feel right now? What is not working for me right now? What needs to change? What is working for me? And just constantly moving with that. It's like, okay, there are some things here that are making me feel really uncomfortable or anxious or on edge. Those things I need to go. Some things I can control, some things I can't. What I can control, let me figure out how to phase that out or change it. What I can't control, okay, is there steps that I can take that in the future that this can shift and no longer be a problem? What does that mean for me right now? Okay, what is really great? Let me really be present in the things that are uplifting me and bringing me joy so that I don't become so immersed in the things that are making me anxious. Because it's very easy, I think, to focus on what's not going well and forget that, like, it's because there's this duality in life, right? Where it's like, we're able to experience multiple things at the same time. But it's like, I don't want to, especially in life right now where it's like, there are so many amazing things that have happened to me in the last few years of my career, but also a lot of things that I've really struggled with a lot. And I'm like, I don't want to lose out on these moments or this moment in my life. I'm traveling. I've never traveled this much before. Like, I'm entering spaces I've never been to. I'm meeting people that I've never met. Like, I don't want to let these years pass me by and look back and realize that I was just so focused on what wasn't going well that I missed out on being present in my life and in the joys of it right now. So it's like, it's a constant, like, push and pull, I won't lie. But the people that I keep around me are a really big part of that. Like, I'm very particular about my community and my circle, and I hold the people close to me really, really close, and I stick with them. And we really understand each other, and within those relationships there's no shame, there's no hiding. I can say exactly what I feel, and so, like, and vice versa, and we're open with each other, and we show up for each other, and we ride for each other, and like, we support each other within everything. And I'm like, that thing is really, really great, because in life sometimes you can feel like maybe like you're going crazy a little bit, but then you see people that are reflections of you, or that be like, babe, don't be ridiculous, like, that remind you who you are at times when you lose sight of who you are. And that thing, if I didn't have my friends and my family, I don't know where I'd be in a lot of circumstances. Like, they consistently remind me who I am and be like, babe, you've got this, keep going. And just like, this path takes a lot of resilience. It challenges your character in a lot of ways. And I think the one thing that I've always been particular about is having a center and being very sure about my why. Why am I doing this thing? And I have to remind myself of that center, something that I can come back to every time. Like, if I go left, I know that there's this base and this reason and this core purpose. And every time I have a place to come back to, and I keep reminding myself of that thing.
What is your why, Charisse?
What is my why? My why, okay, there's me as a person. I've always been somebody that moves with my heart and my spirit. which is why, like, and that's why when I say I'm very sensitive in that way, because I move with the very honest version of myself in everything and anything that I do, and I struggle to not. Like, whenever I'm in circumstances where I have to be anything other than the core of who I am, it's very difficult for me in that way. So that's even down to like being at uni, wanting to drop out so many times because it's like, this is not working for me. Like, and so there was never any other option for me other than to do the thing that I love. And that was always been like, whatever I need to do to make this thing work, this is what I have to do to make it work. And so I've made a lot of sacrifices for my career and what I want to pursue, because in my mind that like there is no other version other than the things that I think about when I close my eyes. Like that is the reality that I want to envision. And so it's a constant pursuit of that, of my dreams first and foremost. And I think I've always been very big on people. That's also why Abantu is called what it is. I care a lot about people, and I'm very big on love, and like I talk about love a lot. And so I also come from a background of doing a lot of work within like social justice. So when I was at uni, the other thing I was doing was working for an organization called Shades of Noir, and it was an organization that was kind of addressing the disparities and inequalities within the education system. So down to like the lack of professors within the institution that are people of color, or the attainment issues of like Black and Asian students within the university. It's like the success rate is that we would start in at some point, drop out, and it's not because of our capability, but there are several things at play that made it difficult for us to succeed, or just even the statistics of when you look at people from working class backgrounds, from African households, we're often the first ones to pursue something of this nature within the arts, right? So it's like you're figuring out on your own, you don't have a foundation, you don't have financial resource or backing. So all of these things where it's like, we have these dreams, but you see dreams die, and not because the people weren't talented, but because the way things were set up made it very difficult for them to continue. And I've always been very much, so many people have really helped me, and I've been very fortunate in that way. Like I've spoken about Lauren Platt and a lot of women, Black people who have been really successful in what they're doing, that have been like, okay, I see what you're trying to do, I'm going to lend a helping hand. And I'm like, I always have to pass that back. I very much 100%. Believe in that. Like, and I've never believed in being the only one. So it's like, if I figure something else out, I have to make it so that whoever else is coming after me doesn't have to make the same mistakes that I learned, 100%. Right? So I'm like that as a person in life. So that's a big thing. It's people, it's care. And then whilst I was at that time, I started teaching at some point during the lockdown. I was really I was reading bell hooks a lot.
Well, who were you teaching?
So I did a teaching course at UAL, and I was placed on an architecture course.
Oh, nice.
I had no background in architecture. Well, in some way, yeah, because I've done a lot of things. But I was working for about 3 years actually, for my local council in Lewisham. Mm-hmm. I was living in Catford for 7 years, and we had a community project that was like alongside the kind of beginning town planning for the regeneration of the area. And again, it's like I'd been writing in my journalism period, regeneration had come up quite a lot. And I'd been writing about like how people, being outpriced of their areas, the culture of an area dying, like all of these types of things, and how that impacts everything, like society, the economy, the arts, all of these type of stuff. And then I could see Catford being at the beginning of that, and I'd started writing about it, and then also reached out to local people in the area, and I was going around interviewing them, having these conversations, and that ended up with me launching this publication that was funded by the council in order to document the people and the culture. Awesome. So it's like, no matter what happens here, you can never say that you didn't know what the community wanted or what they had to say, and 100%. Really understanding the stories of the butchers that's been here for 50 years, the people that lived in these houses before they became flat, all of these type of things. So we were documenting that. I feel like I'm about to lose my train of thought. But I was coming back to...
Your why. We're still speaking about the why.
Yeah, so I think the point that I'm coming... Oh, yes, and in that time, so that was the kind of regeneration, town planning, city planning, and then I was put on an architecture course. Mm-hmm. And obviously... they're very much focused on like the design and the building, but there's ethics behind everything that you do. And so I was like, okay, I don't come from an architecture background, so I'm been placed on an architecture course. What can I bring to these students? And it was the people side of things. It was the process of like using art and storytelling, which has always been my thing. I always describe myself as a storyteller first and foremost. So even the way I DJ and the way I approach music is always from a storyteller's perspective. So it's like, how can you connect with a place that you are designing for, and design for the people, and design with a story in mind, with the spirit of this structure that you're about to build in mind. And that's what I kind of came and taught. And then I used bell hooks as my like the book, which again was just so unorthodox, because it's like now I've got like these students reading bell hooks, and it was all about love. And then I'd started this like online series, like a live stream, and this was during the lockdown. We were on Zoom, and I think a lot of people were struggling, or the students were struggling with like disconnection and like trying to connect with spaces, but we're not even in spaces, we're at home. And so love, like I'm really motivated by love, and kind of continued with that train of thought in mind.
Could I just ask, how is it? Because I'm quite soft as well. I don't like to admit it. How do you protect the energy, girl? Because that one I'm really struggling with.
It's hard, and that's why I say the last couple of years have been really tricky for me. Like this thing tests you. People test you. Life tests you. And again, it's that core purpose of like, I never want to look back and feel like I lost the core of who I am because of what I've experienced at the hands of others. Like I always want to be an example of how I want people to feel, and I want to make people feel how I want to feel. And I also never want to make people feel the negative things that I've experienced. I don't want to perpetuate that. I don't want to be like on some, you know what, I struggled, so like everyone else is going to struggle too, like the world is harsh, so I'm like gonna by any means forget everybody else. And I'm just like, there's enough of that in the world in every sense. And
don't you feel like sometimes it's just like, you know what,
I get that feeling for real, and sometimes I'm like, don't try me actually. And I can be that person, for sure I am, like as much as I'm warm and I'm kind, don't disrespect me also, because I will tell you, but I'll tell you honestly and sternly, but like calmly. If I see myself being pushed past that point, I'll remove myself. Okay, calm. Because and it's like once I'm out of a situation, that's it. I'm out of it. I'm done, because it takes a lot for me to get to that kind of level of anger, and I don't want to be drawn out of character. Calm. And so I'm even as a DJ, a lot of people will tell you, and sometimes people will say that I'm stubborn, but I'm stubborn in the sense that like even I've been very particular with my career and big on my no. That's actually the biggest thing. Like I am not afraid to say no, and like if that means that you might blacklist me, I might lose out on this opportunity, maybe you might never want to work with me again, but what you will do is respect me. 100%. And if you're going to work with me, you're going to respect me as a person first and foremost. Period. Before any other accolade or whatever else. I don't care what I've done, what you've achieved. On the base level, as people, we're going to respect each other. And I feel like that's still love. I think sometimes love can be seen as this like really, like just take anything. And it's like, no, loving myself is being honest. Loving with myself is removing myself from places that don't respect me or don't treat me with kindness. Loving you is saying to you, babe, like for us to work together, I need to be honest with you. This thing doesn't make me happy. And if we want harmony, we have to be honest with each other. And like those are the type of things where it's just like, let's be straightforward, let's be honest, let's respect each other, let's be kind, let's not be weird. You know, let's not, I think a lot of things in life, whether it's capitalism or the patriarchy, there's all these things, right? That it's like, we're all trying to survive. All of us are trying to survive, and we're all coming from our own struggles. Let's not make those things be the reason why we don't treat other people with basic levels of kindness and respect. And so if I can enforce that in the way that I move, I will do that with my kindness. And if you or a space or anything is not able to meet me there, I'm out. And that's my base. And it's like, then anything that kind of perpetuates in my orbit, the people that I keep, the company, is a reflection of who I want to be. And I don't have to be in spaces that don't entertain that. And sometimes you do, you know, because sometimes you gotta finesse things and figure them out. But yeah, love, like I'm really motivated by that, and just people, and I care for people, and leaving things better than I found them. I think a lot of that comes from my mum. Yeah. My mum is a very big community person, you know, and just has held and supported a lot of people. And in times whenever I've seen us going through really, really rough patches in life, we've gone through them because of this community that my mother has built around us. Like I have several mothers because my mom's friends have been my mothers, and I understand how community holds people together and how we can end up isolated and end up in really bad places when we don't have community, and how life can seem darker than it needs to be without community. And so I'm like, I build that and I nurture that around me all the time. And those are the things that are my purpose. I love for what I do and I care for people, I think, if I put that simply. And documenting and archiving things for the future. So we don't look back and be like thinking that what I'm experiencing today is new, because there have been several people. I guess going back to actually the original beginning of the conversation, the blog that I had, it was called Authentic Duplicate, and I came up with that name when I was about 15. And what that meant was that I am a product of my environment, but I am a product of all those who have come before me. And I can't exist in this world as if I've just arrived and dropped out of nowhere, you know? There are people that have made me who I am, and a history and a lineage that I come from, and that is people-based. That's our ancestors, you know?
That's crazy.
And it's continuing to keep that going. And I think that also, when you understand that nothing is original and that we all come from something. It enforces a innate respect for others. Because you don't just think, I'm just this genius that's it. I don't need anybody, like, you know, it's like we all come from something. We need people,
like, yeah, no, it's crazy you said that, because I've been reading the Bible a lot more. That's something I've been getting myself into, like, and I know not everybody's like seriously religious, but I advise everyone to read the Bible as a historical book, if for anything. Do you get what I mean? And one thing that they always mention is there's nothing new under the sun. Do you get what I mean? And if you read it, you're thinking, this book is however years old, and my man is going through the same issue I went through. Do you get what I mean? So it kind of reinforces that. So that's lovely to hear. So before our time runs out, I just want to thank you so much for all the gems you've dropped, first and foremost. I think I could definitely relate to a lot of things that you say. I've been able to relate to, say, like, a lot of your performances and your music especially, and I think a lot of the things that you said to me resonate, and that's probably what has resonated to me through your performances and your music. So kudos to you and big ups to you.
Thank you.
I wish you so much blessings in your journey. I know you got so much more to give out. Before we do go, yes, what's next?
Yeah, so next, well, like I said, today I announced that Abantu is now officially a label, and the first release is my own. So I finished my EP last month. I finished it. So the first single is, I guess I can say it now because I'm going to announce it tomorrow. It's dropping on the 15th of March. Awesome. And then I'm doing the third Abantu event on the 16th, the day after. And it's like my headline show, my curation. We've got DJ La Soul coming down from South Africa, also Mtulisi Patrick and Josephine Gyasi, Captain Lulas and Roseberry that are hosting. So it's like a party celebration of the launch of the label and also the single, and then my full EP will come out in April.
Awesome.
The date, details, name, all of that will come soon. I'll probably announce that on my social media. But yeah, that's really where I'm at right now. It's like obviously about to be EU summer, and just kind of really immersing into the touring season.
Okay.
And playing this music and just kind of really building on the storytelling side of things. Like I really want people to, and as much as I'm a DJ, obviously now going into being a singer and a songwriter, but just to really delve into the stories behind the music, behind what I do. Like conversations like this I really, really enjoy, because I think people get to understand the mind behind who I am beyond the person that they see on the decks. And I just want to build that out, and there's a lot that I have planned for Abantu specifically around that kind of storytelling thing, and just as a platform. And at some point soon, eventually, we'll kind of move into opening up to other artists. It's definitely a big part of the vision. I think this whole pay it forward thing that I've been talking about, it's like carving out my own path for myself, of just really doing this thing of like, if I can't see a way for myself, I'll create it. And if I create it, then I have to then open it up for other people who are kind of looking to experience the same thing or achieve similar things. But yeah, that's it. It's about to be summer.
Okay, this sounds lit. I'm looking forward to everything that you've got going on. Do we have tickets?
Yes, of course. No, please come through. Yay.
Yeah, no, we'd love to cover it. That would be amazing because the last one I came to was lit. So
thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I think this is a really beautiful thing. We need more kind of documenting what's happening, you know, especially here in the UK, which has become such a big home for this music and the cultures that surround it. And just like, props to you guys as well for kind of creating this space. And like, I really enjoyed this conversation with you. Taking your time and being intentional about it. I do appreciate that as well.
We appreciate having you through. It's been a major honor. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Bookstop Brixton Mix. My name's DJ Gqom. We've been here with Charisse C. Make sure you like, share, comment and subscribe. You can check us out on @Bookstop Brixton Mix on Instagram. We're also on Spotify, so you can listen to our podcast on @Bookstop Brixton Mix. And thank you guys.